Our journey to justice must also ask, why is it that Africa, one of the richest continents underneath the ground in terms of our natural wealth, actually is today one of the poorest continents above the ground? When we talk about debt, we must ask, who is aiding who today? The health system in Wales, my dear brothers and sisters, will collapse where it were not for Filipino nurses. The city of Manchester has more doctors than the entire Malawian health system. Who is aiding who, and who owes who a debt? That is the question we have to ask today. Because we are here, Archbishop Ngani and my other brothers and sisters from the south, to say to you, we are very clear. We are not asking for charity, we are asking for justice, and we are wanting to say to the people of the United Kingdom, just as you were ahead of your government, successive governments, on the injustice of slavery, just as you were ahead of your government on the issue of apartheid, just as you have been ahead on the question of poverty, the people in developing countries require each and every one of you to continue to be ahead of your government as you have been. But I want to urge you today not to make a distinction between words and actions. The UK government, I believe, has got far too good press on its position on Africa, on its position on poverty. And I tell you a simple statistic. There is no country on this planet that owes a debt to the people of the developing world because of the injustices committed during the colonial period as the UK government. However, when we talk about the commitment on 0.7%, it was made in 1970. And when Nelson Mandela and I stood at Trafalgar Square and launched Make Poverty History, we said, more than 35 years is a long time to wait for less than 1%. And the UK government is only talking about meeting it in 2013, when 5 other countries outside of the OECD, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and so on, have met that years ago. So my challenge to Gordon Brown and to the UK government, walk the talk, recognize that you have a greater, bigger responsibility than most other developed countries in the world, and act with the urgency that you acted when you engaged in an illegal war in Iraq. Tracy Chapman, performing at Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday, spoke about talking about a revolution. Today we have to recognize that this journey of justice that we are talking about has to be a peaceful, just revolution. This journey of justice has to question the way we live our lives, whether it's good enough that what Western Europe and North America spends on pet food annually can provide the entire African continent with 3 nutritional meals a day. Is that the best humanity can be? We have to ask the questions about the inequality that is deepening and which is leaving many of poor people in the world more and more vulnerable. We have to ask the question, and here is one that I looked at the G8 leaders in Germany and said to them last year, look us in the eye and tell us, if 6,000 people were dying every single day in Europe or North America as they are from HIV AIDS alone in Africa, would you be so timid in your response? If 7,000 people were dying of malaria every single day in Africa, would this be adequate? And the reality of 50,000 unnecessary loss of lives every single day, of which 30,000 are children. If that was happening on Western Europe and North America, my dear brothers and sisters, those of us in Africa now believe, and in the developing world, that the resources would be found a long time ago and they would have been addressed. Ask any G8 leader to look you in the eye and tell you that their performance would have been just as it has been if the racial complexion of the people in question was different. It's an uncomfortable thing to say, but it's a thing that must be said. Oh, Mugabe. I don't have time to respond. But let me tell you about Mugabe very quickly and round up. When Civicus, the organization I work for, and the Global Call to Action Against Poverty, was there supporting Archbishop Pius in Kube and standing up to the Zimbabwean regime, we were followed by some security people, and eventually I started a conversation with them, and then they said, listen, human rights and democracy is not all that brilliant in Zimbabwe, we admit it. But why is Civicus coming so heavily after us when we didn't do Abu Ghraib, when we are not doing Guantanamo Bay, we are not like Gordon Brown trying to pass a 42-day detention without trial legislation. We are not like President Bush trying to pass, do torture and waterboarding. So our answer was, two wrongs don't make a right. But when the question about Mugabe is asked, when the question of corruption is asked, you have to all search your own consciences and the consciences of your government and ask the question, is the conduct of the countries that claim to be democracies since the war on terrorism is fueling and making our challenges in developing countries where we're fighting for democracy so much more difficult? And we cannot be, the real test of democracy is whether we can refrain from detention without trial, torture, racial and religious profiling when there are real threats or perceived threats internally or externally. That is the real test, and I have to say many of the governments that preach democracy in the world are failing, and they're giving ammunition to the Mugabes and other dictatorial leaders in the world. To round up very quickly, we are about to march out of this hall, but I want to say that for this year, the global call to action against poverty, which is the global umbrella of Make Poverty History, pays tribute to the Jubilee folks who have led the Debt campaign and say we need to continue to march side by side throughout the course of this year. The journey to justice will take us to Japan next. It will take us, and here I invite all of you to visit the whiteband.org website and sign your voice as a message to the G8 presidency through the Japanese president. In September, there will be a Millennium Development Goal Review Summit at the UN, at the General Assembly. We ask you to follow that, make your voice known, and be part of the mobilizations that we will be engaged in. And lastly, I want to say to you that in October, on 17th, which is the International Day for Poverty Eradication, we will continue to build as a global call to action against poverty on the momentum when last year we mobilized 47 million people, leading the editor-in-chief of the Guinness Book of Records to say that this was the largest ever single mobilization in the history of people on this planet around a single issue in a 24-hour period. So join us in 17th of October, make sure that our numbers grow, our voice grows, because clearly many of our leaders have a little bit of a hearing problem. So in conclusion, my dear brothers and sisters, let me say that Tracy Chapman in that song talks about poor people gonna rise up and take what's theirs. What's theirs is a fair and just world where people have freedoms. Freedom from poverty, freedom from suffering, freedom from violence. Let's rise up together and let's make the next revolution this planet sees the most peaceful one, the most courageous one, the most just one, and one in which each and every one of you, men, women, young and old, gay and straight, irrespective of your religion, feel that you have a sense of voice, a sense of place, and a sense of purpose. That your brothers and sisters in the developing world, thank you for your solidarity and ask you to pick up the pace and work with us and march shoulder to shoulder through this journey of justice until all the people on this planet have decent homes, decent education for the children, decent healthcare, and decent work. Thank you very, very much.